As human beings, we all have thousands of thoughts run through our minds on a daily basis. Some of those thoughts are ones in which we repeat every day. Thoughts about work or plans for what we want to do after work. Or maybe they are thoughts about the future. With so much running through our minds, it can be sheer insanity keeping all of those thoughts in line and organized. After all, rational thought and the way in which we process our thoughts are, when it comes right down to it, what drive us today. The thoughts and choices which make us who we are today. So please feel free to join me as we discuss some of those thoughts on a deeper scale. I'm your host, Robert Rath, and you're watching Deep Thoughts, right here on the RathCo Gaming channel. Please sit back and enjoy the show. Thanks for being here. Welcome to Deep Thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin, my guest, codenamed Jim, during this episode, unfortunately could not be here with us tonight. So I spoke with him on the phone, and I'm just going to repeat everything exactly as he said it for our phone conversation. Anyway, on with the show. Season 3, Episode 2, Terrorism. When you hear the word terrorist, what comes to mind? And be honest. Unfortunately for some people, the words Arabian or Muslim come directly to their minds, and that's just not right. However, unfortunately, people have been known to blame an entire race for the actions of a few bad apples in the bunch. Stereotypes have done so much damage to our society as well as our way of life. Not all Muslims are terrorists, not all white people are crack addicts, and not all African Americans are criminals or drug dealers. These are all examples of how horrible and god-awful stereotypes can be. It's sad to say, but the majority of races out there have unfortunately been stereotyped as a result of a few bad incidents or the actions of a few bad people. The word terrorist actually refers to anyone that inflicts fear onto others. The literal definition of the word terrorist, according to the Google search I did, is a person who uses unlawful violence and or intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims/reasons. But to me, anyone is capable of becoming a terrorist simply by the way that they treat others. The motivation does not have to be specifically a political agenda. Anyone who derives joy and or pleasure from tormenting others might as well be called a terrorist as well as a sadist. With me is a good friend of mine from South Carolina, whom we will refer to as Jim. He's a military veteran, so he has experience dealing with those known as actual terrorists. Jim, I'd like to welcome you to the show, even though you're not with us. I spoke to you on the phone, and here's our conversation. Jim says, "Hey Rob, glad to be here. Now there's a lot of truth to what you were saying when you said that anyone is capable of being a terrorist. That much, in my opinion, is true. All a terrorist is someone who uses tactics like fear, manipulation, and violence against others to get what he or she wants. Now, where I was stationed, our enemies, whom were terrorists, well, if I were to guess, their motivation comes from wanting a better form of government where they are. Or perhaps they are motivated by something more than politics. Could be greed, because the people overseas are, for the most part, very poor and desperate. So many of the poor civilians end up victims of terrorism when they are literally forced to either fight alongside them or die, because they know if they resist, well, the end result, as you can imagine, is never good. Then I say, I know you can't tell us very much about your time in the service, and that's okay, but in your experience, what would your advice be to someone who, let's say, is being bullied or terrorized by someone who falls into the terrorist category of behavior? How would you escape a situation like that in the civilian world if you're an unarmed civilian? Like, what can be done?" And my friend Jim replied, "That's a very good question, bro. So if you're a civilian and you're not prepared for an altercation, let's say you're just walking to the store and someone comes up and starts shoving you against the wall and demanding your wallet or personal property. Now, the main issue you're faced with is the fact that you don't know if this person has a concealed weapon, somewhere that you can't see. So your best bet, in my opinion, is to make sure you keep an eye on your attacker's hands and where they are going. In my experience, if an attacker is keeping one hand in his pocket or while they're attacking you or talking to you, chances are they have a weapon of some sort that they're ready to pull out. So if you're totally caught off guard, I would do whatever I could to keep control of the person's hands. For example, if your attacker is not maintaining eyesight with you, i.e. if they're shifting their vision all around, looking all around you, or glancing away, that's your golden window to make a move. Maybe you can knock them off balance and flee the area, or perhaps you can run into a nearby building. As for what not to do, do not ever take your eyes off of your attacker. If you have martial arts or combat training and you believe you can gain the upper hand without risking your life, then the sooner you do so, the better. Because the longer your attacker has control of you, the less likely it is that you'll escape with your life or escape without injury. And then I said, okay, I see what you mean, bro. Now, what if the attacker pulls a handgun or knife? And my friend Jim replies to this with, okay, so that's when your life is on the line here. If your attacker has a gun or a knife, it could end a lot of different ways. First thing is body language. Does your attacker seem anxious, nervous, or all around scared and acting rushed, like they have to run? And chances are their intentions are to cause you bodily harm or even death. And I say this for a few different reasons. Whenever someone is looking all around and acting like they're in a rush, they don't want any witnesses to see what they're about to do. And believe it or not, although that's a scary thought, it's a good one too. Because this means that the attacker is panicked and nervous and therefore will have trouble thinking clearly. If they become distracted enough, you may consider shoving them down or escaping toward the area the attacker keeps looking toward, since chances are there are people in that direction or some sort of store or building that would provide you cover. However, the type of weapon matters as well. If it's a gun, then guns make a very loud sound when fired, and if your attacker wants to make sure that no one knows what they are doing, well, firing a gun draws a lot of unwanted attention. Reminding your attacker of that by telling them something like, you know, guns like that are super loud. You sure you want to do that? However, there are people on this planet that just don't give a shit, and they'll shoot you no matter who knows and what you say. So it's always smarter to just comply with your attacker until you see a good opening to escape or contact authorities. That's when I said, well, thank you for your service, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here, my friend. My friend Jim replied, oh, no worries, brother. Glad you got a hold of me while I'm still in Buffalo. I got friends and family down here. I'm a visit. But yeah, call me later on tomorrow. Maybe we can go fishing or some shit. And I said, okay, sounds good, brother. Talk to you later. That's where our phone conversation ended. I still need the mic. In closing, I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Deep Thoughts. Please be sure to like and subscribe, turning on all notifications for RathCo Gaming. I consider each and every one of you a member of the RathCo family of gamers and friends. You all have my love, support, and respect, as I have yours. And until next time, thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side. Later. Have a good night. Well, folks, I hope that you all enjoyed this episode of Deep Thoughts that focused on the word terrorism. In closing, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for sticking around to listen to this episode. I just wanted to let you know that coming along with our new year, 2025, along with the new year comes a lot of new and great content here on RathCo Gaming. So make sure that you like and subscribe, turning on all notifications for RathCo Gaming, because I consider each and every one of you a member of the RathCo family of gamers and friends. You all have my love and respect and support. Until next time, thanks again. We'll see you later on the flip side.